Welcome to episode 1 of Trying to Cook Stuff, the show where I cook something and see if it's alright or not. Today we're cooking with apples because it's apple season up here in New York, and I'm going to try making a rustic apple tart. I got this recipe from the instruction manual that came in my mixer, so it'll be interesting to see if this turns out alright or not. I'm thinking it's going to be okay. I feel like it'll be pretty hard for me to screw up chopping apples and wrapping them in dough. But alright, let's see how this goes and find out if I can make an apple tart or not. We're going to want to start by cutting up a stick and 2 tablespoons of butter in the sizes you see here. Then we're going to want to measure out 2 1/4 cups of flour, put it into our mixing bowl. Next we're going to want to add that butter into our mixing bowl, then turn this bad boy on, let that stuff spin around for a hot minute. Now we're just blending the butter into the flour to make it more consistent. We're going to be adding water to this in a little bit. But let me just remind you guys, this is my first time making pie crust, so I have no idea how this is supposed to look. I think it's coming out okay so far. I guess we'll see how it turns out. Now I'm just grabbing some water to add to the dough. You're going to want to add about 5 to 6 tablespoons of cold water while this is spinning it up. As you add more water, you'll see it gets thicker and thicker, and then soon you're going to have a nice heavy dough consistency. When it gets about this thick, you're going to want to turn off your mixer and gather the dough to take it out to get ready to prepare it to be rolled out. First thing you're going to want to do is cut the dough in half, put half of it in the fridge for 15 minutes, take the other half, wrap it up in plastic wrap. You can save that in the freezer for whatever else you might need to use pie dough for. Next, you're going to want to get 6 large apples or 7 or 8 medium to small apples. Peel them, and then we're going to core them. I'm not sure if this is a good technique or not. This is what I did. It looks in this video that I'm risking cutting my fingers off, but you know, I didn't end up doing that, so I guess to each his own. An apple corer would have made this much easier, but without a corer, you just cut your apples into quarters and then kind of cut out the core like how you see I'm doing here. Next, you're going to want to cut each quarter into 3 or 4 slices. Now add all your cut apples to a mixing bowl. You're going to need about 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. I prefer fresh squeeze, but you could buy the store-bought lemon juice if you wanted. Add it to the apples. Now add a 1/4 cup of granulated sugar to the apples and stir them up. Now to make our crumble topping, we're going to need 1/3 cup of light brown sugar. We also are going to need a 1/2 cup of flour and a 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon. Also get a 1/2 stick of butter softened. I'm going to use a stand mixer, but if you have a hand mixer, you can do this by hand. I'm going to use the paddle attachment, and we're going to just lower the mixer down, spin it up for a while. Now I probably should have stopped it here because you want your topping to be kind of crumbly, but I decided to keep going and inevitably led to overmixing it. So you see mine kind of turned into a dough. You definitely don't want that. It's supposed to be more of a crumbly topping, but we'll make it work. My fake 15-minute timer is going off, so now it's time for me to pretend to preheat the oven to 400 degrees. And at that 15-minute mark, you're also going to want to take your dough out of the fridge because it'll be cool enough to roll out. I have no idea if I'm doing this correctly. I just had a rolling pin and a surface that I had a little bit of flour on, and I just kind of tried rolling it into as okay of a circle shape as possible. Now transfer the pie crust onto a baking sheet and get ready to fill it with apples. I had more apples than I needed, so I used those extra apples to make an apple syrup topping. So because my topping is more like a dough, spreading it out wasn't very easy, so I did my best with what I had to work with. You're going to want to fold the dough over the apples and over the topping to kind of hold it all together. As you can see here, my topping's kind of all one piece, but we'll make it work. Now throw that bad boy straight in the oven. Now let it bake for about 30 minutes in the oven. You'll see the edges and the crust starting to turn brown and the topping starting to brown itself.
I didn't include a video here, but in the middle of the cooking process, I took it out and I scored the top of the topping, so it wasn't just one full mass. It kind of had more of a crumbly texture to it. Now here's the finished product. Nothing like serving it with some vanilla ice cream. And as you see here, I got that apple syrup topping I was talking about. Not the prettiest looking dessert I've ever made or I've ever seen, but I'll tell you what, it tastes great. Now let's get some close-up shots. As you can tell, it's not the prettiest dessert you've ever seen, but let me tell you, it tastes fantastic, especially with that apple syrup sauce I made and the vanilla ice cream. Classics. If I ever make this again, I'll definitely make sure not to overmix the topping there, because it literally became just a dough that laid on top of everything instead of being a crumbly sprinkling. But now, let's make ourselves a beverage to go along with this dessert. Start by filling 1 pint glass to the top with ice. Then pick out your favorite high rye whiskey or bourbon. Measure out 1.5 ounces of it. Add it to the glass. Add 3 dashes of Angostura bitters. And finally, top the whole thing off with your favorite apple cider. Give this whole thing a nice heavy stir to mix it all in and give it a little dilution. Garnish it with an apple slice, or break your garnish and just put the whole slice inside of your drink. And that is how you make what's called a stone fence. It was a good drink, a little sweet if anything, but overall it was very enjoyable. If I make this drink again, I'll probably either use some nutmeg or some spiced cider instead to give the drink a little more complexity to it, a little more flavor. Now, to grade myself on these, I'll give the apple tart a C on appearance, but a B plus on flavor. For the stone fence, I'm going to give myself a B plus on appearance and a B on flavor. Let me know if you guys agree with this or not, or if you think you would have a better suggestion for anything I've done here. Overall, I'm a big fan of apple season, so I hope you guys have a good apple season yourself. Get some apples in ya, keep those doctors away, and have a great fall. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye.